Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this live stream for Windows Server 2003. Share my screen. Okay, activating and deactivating scopes. When you've completed the steps in exercise 5.4 and you're ready to unleash your new scope so that it can be used to make client assignments, the final required step is activating the scope. When you activate a scope, you're just telling the server that it's okay to start handing out addresses from that scope's address pool. As soon as you activate a scope, address from its pool may be assigned to clients. Of course, this is a necessary precondition to getting any use out of your scope. If you later want to stop using a scope, you can, but be aware it's a permanent change. You turn off a scope by deactivating it, but when you do so, DHCP tells all clients registered with the scope that they need to release their leases and renew them someplace else. The equivalent of a landlord who evicts his tenants when the building is condemned. Don't deactivate a scope unless you want clients to stop using it immediately. Creating a super scope. A super scope allows the DHCP server to provide multiple logical subnet addresses to DHCP clients on a single physical network. You create super scopes with the new superscope command, which triggers the new superscope wizard. To create a superscope, follow these steps. 1. Open the DHC snap-in by selecting Start, Administrative Tools, DHCP. Follow the instructions in exercise 5.3 to create two scopes, one for 192.168.0.2, 192.168.0.127, and one for 192.168.1.12, 192.168.1.127. 3. Right-click your DHCP server and choose the new superscope command. The new superscope wizard appears. Click the next button. 4. In the superscope name page, name your superscope and click the next button. 5. The select scopes page appears, showing a list of all scopes on the current server. Select the two scopes you created in step 1 and then click the next button. 6. The summary wizard page appears. Click the finish button to create your scope. 7. Verify that your new super scope appears in the DHCP snap-in. You may notice that you can delete a super scope by right-clicking it and choosing the delete command. A super scope is just an administrative convenience, so you can safely delete one at any time. It doesn't affect the real scopes that make up the super scope. In the following section, you will see how to add and remove scopes from a super scope and how to activate and deactivate a super scope. Adding and removing scopes from a super scope. Adding a scope to an existing super scope is a matter of finding the scope you want to add, right-clicking it and using the action add to super scope command. This causes the snap-in to show you a dialog box listing all of the super scopes known to this server. Pick the one you want the current scope appended to and click the OK button. If you later want to remove a scope from a super scope, open the super scope and right-click the target scope. The pop-up menu provides a remove from super scope command that will be do the deactivating and deactivating superscopes. Just as with regular scopes, you can activate and deactivate superscopes. The same restrictions and guidelines apply. You must activate a superscope before it can be used, and you must not deactivate it until you want all your clients to lose their existing leases and be forced to request new ones. To activate or deactivate a superscope, right-click the superscope name and select Activate or Deactivate respectively from the pop-up menu. Creating multicast scopes. Multicasting occurs when one machine sends data to an entire network rather than specifically addressing each machine on the destination network. IP multicasting is becoming increasingly common as the amount of network bandwidth available on the average network increases. It's much more efficient to multicast a video or audio stream to multiple destinations than it is to broadcast it to the same number of clients, and the increased demand for multicast-friendly network hardware has resulted in some head-scratching about how to automate the multicast configuration. In the following sections, you will learn about the protocol that controls multicasting, MADCAP, and how to build and configure a multicast scope. Understanding the multicast address dynamic client allocation protocol, MADCAP. DHCP is normally used to assign IP configuration information for unicast one-to-one network communications. It turns out that there's a separate type of address space assigned just for multicasting. 224.0.0.0, 239.255.255.255. However, multicast clients also need to have an ordinary IP address. Clients can participate in a multicast just by knowing and using the multicast address from the content they want to receive. How do clients know what address to use? Ordinary DHCP won't help because it's designed to assign IP addresses and option information to one client at a time. Realizing this, the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, defined a new protocol, Multicast Address Dynamic Client Allocation Protocol, MADCAP. MADCAP provides an analog to DHCP, but for multicast use, a MADCAP server issues leases for multicast address only. MADCAP clients can request a multicast lease when they want to participate in a multicast. There are some important differences between DHCP and MADCAP. First, you have to realize that the two are totally separate. A single server can be a DHCP server, a MADCAP server, or both, both. There's no implied or actual relation between the two. Likewise, clients can use DHCP and or MADCAP at the same time. The only requirement is that every MADCAP client has to get a unicast IP address from somewhere. Next, remember that DHCP can assign options as part of the lease process, but MADCAP cannot. The only thing MADCAP do is dynamically assign multicast addresses. Building multicast scopes. When you want to create a new multicast scope, right-click the server where you want the scope created and choose the new multicast scope option. Most of the steps you go through when creating a multicast scope are identical to those required for an ordinary unicast scope, so you'll see the differences highlighted in exercise 5.5. Creating a new multicast scope. 1. Open the DHCP snap-in by selecting Start Administrative Tools DHCP. 2. Right-click your DHCP server and choose New Multicast Scope. The new multicast scope wizard appears. Click the next button on the welcome page. 3. In the multicast scope name page, name your multicast scope and add a description if you'd like. Click the next button. 4. The IP address range appears. Enter the start IP address of 224.0.0.0 and an end IP address of 224.225.0.0. Adjust the TTL to 1 to make sure that no multicast packets escape your local network segment. Click the next button when you're done. 5. The Add Exclusions page appears. Click its next button. 6. The Lease Duration page appears. Normally you leave multicast scope assignments in place somewhat longer than you would with a regular unicast scope. Hence the default length lease of 30 days. Click the next button. 7. The wizard asks if you want to activate the new scope. Click the No Radio button and then the next button. 8. The wizard summary page appears. Click the Finish button to create your scope. 9. Verify that your new multicast scope appears in the DHCP snapping. Setting multicast scope properties. Once you create a multicast scope, you can adjust its properties by right-clicking the scope name and selecting Properties. The Multicast Scope Properties dialog box has 2 tabs. The General tab, figure 5.12, allows you to change the scope's name, its start and end address, its time to live TTL value, its lease duration, and its description. In essence, all of the settings you provided when you created it in the first place. So you can see here the General tab of the Multicast Scope Properties dialog box. The Lifetime tab, see figure 5.13, allows you to limit how long your multicast scope will be active. By default, a newly created multicast scope will live forever. But if you're creating a scope to provide madcap assignments for a single event, or a set of events that cover a limited duration, you can specify an expiration time for the scope. When that time is reached, the scope disappears from the server, but not before making all its clients give up their multicast address leases. This is a nice way to make sure the lease cleans up after itself when you're done with it. So you can see here figure 5.13, the Lifetime tab of the Multicast Scope Properties dialog box. So I'm going to leave it here this evening for this live stream. Thanks for listening and have a good evening.